So what is going on, guys? I'm Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another video on the channel where today we are back with our sort of series where we take a look at every single zombies maps, going through the gameplay, Easter eggs, and sort of adding the story into that as well. Looking at every single thing that makes a zombies map. So far we've done quite a few. I would say we're maybe perhaps almost halfway through this list. I don't know how many zombies maps there are in total, but there's quite a lot. I've done The Rise and Draka, Shadows of Evil. One of the first ones was Verrucht 5. If you want to check any of those older ones out, I've done them over the past month or so on the channel, so they shouldn't be too difficult to find. But the map I want to talk about today is one of the first and arguably also one of the most important zombies maps we've ever had, just because a lot of things that were included in this map we saw for the first time, and then they continued on into the future of zombies. So you could say this map, Shi no Numa, shapecode zombies into what it is today, or at least what it used to be. This map came out for World at War all the way back in 2009. This was DLC 2, DLC 1 being Verrucht, and DLC 3 being Der Riese, because that game only had 3 DLC maps instead of the usual 4. And so, before this, Verrucht, Nacht, they were the bare bones of zombies, but this map introduced a few things that would go on to shape this game mode. But just before we carry on, I do want to say that today's video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is the first game to bring a true console level experience to your phone. They've set a very high bar for mobile gaming, and there's no going back. Raid allows you to explore millions of champion combinations and master countless tactics as you take on raid bosses, dungeon runs, campaign battles, and PvP arena matches. With hundreds of artifacts to equip and over 600 champions blessed with unique skills, you can build your team, develop your champions, and raid any way you like. Use my QR code you can see up on screen now, or the links below to download Raid for yourself to your mobile phone or PC. I've been playing Raid for a while now. These are just some of the champions I've been using. The first one, Raglan, is without a doubt the best reviver in Raid. She revives a single target, fills their turn meter, and gives them a bit of health. But the best part, it has a 2-turn cooldown, making her the fastest reviver period. Another really great champion is the Royal Guard. He has just one job, and that is to wreck bosses. He has an extremely powerful ability that scales damage based on enemy max HP, in addition to the damage it deals otherwise. Add to that his default skill, which inflicts decreased defense, and his third skill, which hits 4 times at random, each time with a high chance to reduce turn meter by 25%, and he can paralyze a boss and deal incredible damage all in one package. Honestly, the champions are my favourite thing about this game. They're all unique, cool, and fun to use. And there's a ton of stuff happening in Raid this month, with an update to the Tag Arena, some new champions, and a full schedule of special events and tournaments. But here's the main event. Raid's currently running a special Deliana Chase event, where you can get your hands on the amazing Deliana, a brand new legendary champion from the High Elves faction, just by logging in. All you have to do is log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and July the 20th, and you'll get Deliana for free. That's it. Deliana is one of the strongest support champions in the entire game and can help carry your team get past many of Raid's tougher challenges. If you're not playing Raid yet, hit the link in the description and you'll get a free champion, Misericord, Tiger Soul, and Romero, 10 Magic XP Brew, 10 Force XP Brew, and 10 Spirit XP Brew. But the gift keeps coming. Once you're in game, just enter the promo code MyDeliana and you can get your hands on everything. Get 50 XP brews to instantly get your legendary hero Deliana to max level 50, all well as a ton of silver. So there we go. Click the link down in the description and start playing Raid Shadow Legends today. Anyway, let's get straight back to the video. So as I was saying, there are 3 different things in my opinion that shape a map. These are the gameplay, Easter eggs, and the story. Shi no Numa, being relatively early on in zombies, didn't have a massive complex storyline. As far as Easter eggs went, I would say this was the map where they started to become a prominent thing. However, the gameplay is a really important one, just because there are so many aspects that first appeared in this map. Shi no Numa was actually our first zombies map that introduced the concept of special rounds, so instead of just having the regular zombies, which we had in Verrucht and Nacht, this was the first time we saw unique enemy types, and what we had were the Hellhounds. I would say, just without any research, probably the most consistent special enemy type. I reckon besides from the zombies, we've seen the Hellhounds more than anything else, and they first appeared on this map. With them being the most popular, we know pretty much everything about them now. Honestly, not my favourite enemy type. Maybe it's because I am so used to them. They're not very difficult on the newer games especially. They don't really provide a challenge. All they're really useful for is giving you a max ammo. I do think they have lost their horror aspect over the past few years, but still, they're a staple in zombies at this point. One of the other great things that this map introduced to zombies was the Wunderwaffe. Now, this wasn't the first time we were introduced to wonder weapons. We'd had the ray gun in Nectar and Toten, although some people wouldn't count that. I believe the Wintershall was actually on the BO1 version of Verrucht, not on the World at War version. So if you don't want to count any of those, then I suppose this was the first wonder weapon in zombies, the Wunderwaffe. A lot of people's favourite wonder weapon, in fact. Personally, for me, it isn't. I would say it's kind of in the middle. It's effective in terms of the damage it does because it has infinite damage, so it's great on any round, but it doesn't kill a ton of zombies when you compare it to something like, I don't know, the Sliquifier, the Thundergun, the Apothecary Servant, especially because of its ammo, and because of on the World at War version of Shi no Numa, there was no Pack-a-Punch, so you didn't get that extra ammo, but it's still a very good wonder weapon. Again, just because it's so popular, I don't really need to go into too much detail. But pushing those two things aside, what overruled this for me was how the perk system worked. There are 4 different locations, 4 different huts you can open up, and for every one that you open, inside you find a randomized perk. So for every match you play, that means that the perks are going to spawn in different locations. We also had 2 different traps, the electroshock defense and the flogger being a very, very fun one. Another thing we had was the transport system in terms of the gondola or zipline, whatever you want to call it. Honestly, not that effective to me. It always felt a bit more like a gimmick, just because it took you from the top of the map to the bottom and only to one area. And when I'm playing Shi no Numa just regularly, it's very rare that I'm training at the top of the hut, so it was always a little bit inconvenient to just go to the top to then zipline your way down, but nevertheless, it's there. Yet another thing that we didn't have on this map that a lot of zombies maps do was a power switch. The only other map I can think of right now, just off the top of my head, was Nakta and Toten. Verrückt had a power switch, so did Dries, but Shi no Numa didn't, which was great. It meant that you could buy any perk without having to turn on the power. A quick mention should also come to the originality of this map. This was technically the first original map we ever had in Zombies. Whilst, yes, it still included parts of the campaign, when it comes to the layout, it was completely new. Whereas parts of the layout for Verrückt and Nacht were taken from the campaign, whilst Shi no Numa also does that when it comes to the layout compared to those other two. This was the first completely original map, which is a big step for Zombies considering how small it was back in the day. The budget, the time they had, the amount of people working on it, this was a big leap forward to put this much effort into a mode that was still small. And then the final couple of things in this category I want to mention is, 1, this map actually had a yellow mystery box light. This map introduced the Ultimus characters to us. A lot of people, I think, forget that. They think that we saw Ultimus first on Dries, just because that was when the story really kicked off. But no, we actually played as Takeo, Dempsey, Richtofen and Nikolai for the very first time on Shi no Numa. So it was incredibly important for the storyline. Without this map, just like loads of other things I've mentioned, Zombies would not have been what it was. But the number one thing for me, which I don't quite understand just because it isn't my speciality, and that is, this seems to be the map that everyone, whenever I see this pop up on YouTube or someone talk about it on Twitter, this was the map for high rounds. Now, I'm not a high round person. I consider high rounds to be round 50. I don't go past that. It's just not for me. It's not what I want from Zombies. I prefer the storyline. So I'm nowhere near the best person to give you guys an explanation as to why this is, but I always notice that a lot of the high rounds, perhaps back in the old days, maybe now it's changed, but it was always on this map. And quickly moving on to Easter eggs then, not forgetting that this was early on in Zombies, so there weren't too many, but there were a few important ones. The first one, the most popular, the one that you are all going to know, was we saw Peter McCain hanging from the rooftop from his parachute. It got explained to us later on in Gorod Karovi how this happened, and we learnt about it in the Canorium, but there was so many speculations earlier on in Zombies as to how this happened. How did Peter end up dying? Did he hang himself? Was he hung by someone? Was it an accident? It turned out he actually jumped from a plane above and his parachute got caught in the rooftop, hanging him. But there were loads of speculations back in the day, and it's actually quite a scary Easter egg as well, just seeing this random person hanging. We also had Richtofen's Diary, which was a book that if you went up to it and pressed the interactive button, you would hear him laugh. In terms of the storyline, that's actually the reason why Ultimus are here, to collect Richtofen's Diary. Again, we didn't know that at the time until much later on. Another big one is the massive rock of Element 115 in the swamp. Again, this explains how Zombies began, if you look further into it. And besides from that, there's a few radios, some writing on the walls, not too many, but I would say every single Easter egg in this map is crucial. Whereas a lot of what we've seen in Zombies later on, not all of it's important, 99% of what we see in this map is. And what made it even more interesting back in 2009 was we didn't actually know what half of it meant. This map was so important for the gameplay, it introduced so many things that we saw in Zombies later on. It was also super important for the storyline because it set everything up as well as giving us Ultimus for the first time, and it had so many important Easter eggs as well. This is one of, if not you could argue, the most important Zombies map we have ever got, and without it, Zombies would not be the same. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, drop a like rating, make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.